Hi there, welcome to a play guide to the game Elite Dangerous, developed by Frontier Developments and released on the 16th of December 2014. From the main menu here, we can choose to go into a training mode, we can start the game, we can link to friends, we can even report a player for abuse, and we can check out the options. From here we can change our graphics detail, and you can see unfortunately this rip hasn't ripped very good graphically, but you can see there I'm using a CRT, a 90s CRT, and that is 4:3 mode, and you can see in here we can tweak things into high detail, and even though I only have a lowly 560 graphics card, these are on high detail. And the most important things, the audio, we must make sure that the system sounds don't interfere with our enjoyment. We can turn our music up and down, and we can also tweak our environment to our heart's content. We can also choose our dynamic range, and for this one I'm choosing headphones because I only have a stereo system that will boost and balance that stereo system, and we can also change the system voice commands on and off as well. You can see I like to change the voice audio off for most of these computer commands, especially the ones which are obvious, which are the hyperspace buttons and the fuel scooping and the docking complete and things like that. If you have docked, it's pretty obvious and you don't need a computer to tell you otherwise. And you can see scan detected there. It gets pretty annoying to have that on because that happens regularly, so let's switch that off. It will give us a message for that on the screen, so we don't need an annoying computer to give us that information. So I hope you can see there most of these are off, and let's take a look at the controls. And these will be customized of course to each player, and you don't have to choose the defaults of course, but most of these are still set at the defaults. And to control this game we have to use either a flight controller or a mouse, and I'll be using a mouse for this. And we can also use the keyboard as shortcut commands. You can see the throttle controls are aligned in this case to my number pad, and to select those, the 0, 2, 5 and 7 key for 75%. We will see comes in handy later on, and the keypad enter there for 100% thrust. You can even have minus negative thrust there, but I don't usually bother. And moving down the list here, you can see my key combinations. The frameshift drive is on the M key, the local frameshift drive known as Super Cruise is on the N key, and we can also press the B key in this case to jump to an alternative hyperspace location. And checking out the F keys as well, cycle next ship is on there, and cycle previous ship, and again those will come in handy. F10 for next hostile ship certainly comes in handy, and next subsystem, we'll see those in action later on. And deploy hardpoints there is actually the corner of my keyboard, and I'm actually using an Amiga keyboard for this, surprisingly. And well, here we go, continuing F7, deploy heatsink, very useful to have as a quick F key. And chaff is also on an F key, that's also on F6, and the shield cell bank is also on F3 there to recharge that. And so F6 and F3 in an emergency, and those are my preferred settings. Navigating around my ship, I use the 1 key most of all, and that sets us back on the target panel. And the systems panel is 4, which is the right hand panel as we shall see, and the communications panel is set to 8 at this point. And we are also able to switch these on and off at our leisure of course, and autofocus is off for the communications because I'll be playing this in solo mode. And we can see open system map, open galaxy map, and those are aligned to key 6, and the galaxy map in this case I like to actually align that to key 0, but I'm actually pressing the hash key for some reason there, but key 0 is the one I usually use as a shortcut to the galaxy map. And you can also see flight controls and interface controls there. You can copy and emulate my system with the pause mode on your playback if you want to copy my setup. can even clear a save there if we aren't careful, so let's not do that. Let's not clear the game. Let's try and play this in solo mode, and of course we can play open play online if we should choose to do so, and we can even invite our friends to a local group. But in this case I'm going to choose solo, and that means that we will find no human players in the game. As the game loads, we will be presented with a model of our current ship. In this case it's a Sidewinder, and you might find that juddering slightly. That's partly to do with my recording software and partly due to the game loading. And here we go, we start off the game in Cleve Hub, which is in Erivate, a system part of the Federation. And don't worry, these terms will become clear, hopefully, as we continue. So here in the starport we can enter the hangar, we can launch straight away, and we can also go into the starport services there, and that's the local computer which will inhabit every single starport, every single outpost, every single landing pad in the game. You can see there we start off with virtually zero cash and a Sidewinder. You can see in the middle panel I am Commander at Life School Amiga there. I have full fuel, I have some news, and we have a few options you can see here on the left. We can see a number of options here. At this point many of these won't be applicable because we are starting the game, so let's check out the outfitting. When we begin we are given a couple of pulse lasers on our craft, and because we have zero money in the bank we'll have to sell those. Here is a representation of our craft. It's a basic Sidewinder, and from here we can upgrade that ship in a number of key compartments, and we'll certainly need to do that if we want to progress in this game. And we can also have a basic discovery scanner as well, which comes with every single ship in this game. We start off with a very measly 2-ton fuel capacity, and that could be 2 gallons for all I know. It's very small. You can see laden we can only fly 6.9 light years out of the possible 7, and the cargo is only 4 tons of cargo space, which is absolutely impossible. So let's go ahead and sell the basic discovery scanner, give us 1,000 credits right off the bat. And you can see the cargo racks, well, we don't actually need to carry the 4 cargo racks at this point, and we could get rid of those for a little more cash. But what we're actually going to do is to sell the pulse lasers, and they should give us a few thousand for that opportunity. And those few thousands will certainly help us this early in the game. Which of course leaves us completely empty and vulnerable to every single attack. So we'll have to fly on our best behaviour from now on. But that gives us 5.5, yes, 5,500 credits, and the 2 there, well, you'll discover why we have 2 credits much later on. But with that 5,000, would I upgrade any of these at this point? Well, not really. The most important thing is to fill this empty slot with a fuel scoop, and a fuel scoop will allow us to take on fuel without having to dock. You can see the basic discovery scanner there, we can rebuy that, and that will give us extra cash, but at the moment we are cycling through those. Most of those are in red, these items, because we cannot afford those, and we can afford the C1 fuel scoop there. It's 5,000 credits and we have that in the bank. And you can see the fuel rate, it gives you the stats there. The important items to note is certainly the fuel rate uptake in this item. And so let's investigate the other items. You can see there is a cheaper E1 fuel scoop and cargo racks there if we decide to buy those, but the cheaper E1 only 300 credits. It's certainly great. So arranging those, we can arrange our items in any kind of order, and we've chosen to arrange those on the order of module type. There is only the 2, and I'm deciding to go for the most expensive because that will save time. That gives us a whopping 360 credits remaining. At this point we do not have any guns, so we cannot load those in the munitions tab. We are fine, so we don't need any repairs. So there is also the bulletin board, and there is also contacts, outfitting, and the shipyard as well. So let's look at the shipyard first of all. In here we can obviously buy new ships, and every single one of those ships is beyond our price point at this point. We could sell our current ship for 32,000, but would that afford us the 44,000 we need for the Eagle? Perhaps not. The Eagle, you may remember, is the very first ship that we started with in the Frontier game, and Commander Jameson, but we can start with the Eagle if we choose to buy this game, or if we are a Kickstarter backer, then you gain the Sidewinder. So with the Sidewinder now, we are still here at Cleve Hub, and we can check out the commodities. There isn't much available to our pocket at this point, but you can see a whole rack of commodities has sprung up in this game, and we can check out the universal cartographics as well, as we shall see later on. But bringing up the galaxy map, we can see here Erivate, or however you pronounce that, that's where we are. We're on a kind of an independent rock stuck out in Federation space, and it's stuck out there in a bunch of solar systems. So what we need to do from here is to find somewhere that looks like home, and by clicking on navigation we can then choose our destination, and we can highlight those systems in a number of different ways. So you can see we can turn on and leave off some options, and the constellations there, if you have kiddies playing this game, you might want to show those Cassiopeia and all the rest. The yellow planet says that this area is industrial, but if we change that to reveal the system allegiance, that will reveal the system is not part of the Federation, because it is not in red, it is yellow and therefore an independent, and the Empire appears in blue and the Alliance in green. The Federation, just like the other Elite games, well actually instead of Elite 1, which actually gave us a start in the Alliance, we started in Lave and Deso, but Elite 2, that gave us a leg up in the Federation, and in Elite 2 Frontier we started off around Sol, and that's where I like to play in this game. All the system information, you can even click on the information for each system and find out what they have in there, and you can wave pointers over those. By clicking on those we can actually set those as a destination. By clicking on the first tab we can set that as a destination point, and when that happens an orange arrow will appear over that point there, and that has plotted that into the Navi computer. I can now fly to that system. By clicking on the second tab, that will chart a path to that system, and we can even buy system trade data as well, but we cannot afford that at this point, and we won't be doing much trading at this early in the game. But we can check out the system information, and the system map will appear. You can access that map in any number of ways, but one of those is to click on the destination there in the galaxy map, and from here we can check out their local commodities, what they buy in and what they sell, what they prohibit, which we'll need to know later on, and so we can work out a vague idea of what these guys buy in, and we can take those items across, and you can see prohibited there, number of items, and slaves prohibited, tobacco, narcotics, basically everything is prohibited in some of these stations, whereas in others toxic waste is prohibited and slaves, but others are relatively safe, and there is a black market going on, as we shall see. So some of these places will inspire us to take illegals in there, and so we'll need to know which ones are safe as well when we are trying to evade the law. You can see even though these stations are in the same system, each station will give out a generally different array of items and require different items, so sometimes you can't always set the system itself is one thing or another. But in this case what we are looking for is the Sol system. By clicking on navigation and tapping that in, that's where we will find the Sol galaxy, and in Sol, that is obviously our hometown, and we will find Barnard Star there, and by clicking on the economy route or the fastest route, that will show us either the fastest or the best fuel economized route to Sol. And for this we will select the economy route, and you can see that winds its way around the galaxy in a very long pattern indeed. And so the second tab, remember, chooses our route. That's the Pathfinder tab, and you can see our route is highlighted on the galaxy map there. But if we choose the fastest route, find Sol again, or click on the arrow, that should find Sol. But if you found Sol already, that will cycle through the galaxies which contain SOL or variants of, and that can be quite annoying, so you have to type that in again. Having done so, Sol will appear on the galaxy map. Now you can see that the path, even though it is still winding, it is very much less winding than the very windy path that we had with the economical route, and so we will be following this route, the faster of the routes. And because we have the fuel scoop, we don't need to worry about fuel. We can choose the fastest route to get there, and it will still take a number of jumps there. One jump plus 16, you can see on the left there, on the left system panel. By pressing the 1 key, that brings that up, and from here we can press the E key to switch tabs, or the A and the S key to move our way through these, and we can choose our destination through this menu. At the moment it's locked on the item there, the space station, but we can choose our destination at random, and we can fly there as long as it is within our range. If it isn't, then it will be in red. But you can see at the bottom the Pathfinder route has a special symbol next to that, and locking that as the destination will follow that path. So let's do that, let's follow that path, and let's get to Sol. On the main screen we can also press the S and the W key to cycle those up and down, and we can press the space bar to select. You can hear somebody in the dock got blown up there as I tried to rise and ascend out of that bay, and the space docks will be busy. By pressing the F key we can take off vertically, and having taken off we can then apply the thrusters to apply forward motion. In this case we will not raise our landing gear, just to show you that it is possible to fly. And yes, we can see another ship there waiting to take off, but that thing doesn't seem to be moving anywhere, so let's apply forward thrust. And remember, I used the plus and minus key to reverse and to put the forward thrust on, and then I used the plus and the minus key to adjust, but that's optional of course. What we have to do is to align ourselves up with the exit door or the exit gate there, and by moving through this we can exit this complex. And there are a traffic light system. If it's green, it's usually safe to exit, and if it's red, that means there may be oncoming traffic. Pressing the enter key we can then apply full speed and head off and align with our destination. But before we can move anywhere, you may notice we still have that gear down, and before we do anything else we'll have to press the G key, and to raise that landing gear, store it back inside our ship.
Landing gear retracted.
But before we can fly anywhere, there's still a number of things we must take care of. One of those is the mast locked. And as that mast locked light goes out on the right, we can then continue. That means we are virtually too close to our space station to be able to continue. And while we are here, we can also change the engine management and the system management by using the cursor keys. On the left we can change the amount of energy that goes to the system, which is basically the shield. In the middle we have the engine power, and on the right we have weapons. And so now that we are not mast locked, we can then press the M key. That will charge up our frameshift drive, and we can jump into hyperspace. You may notice a slight delay there as we move into hyperspace, and again that is because I'm recording this on a very lowly graphics card meant to display Amiga games, so this isn't very helpful, and it does judder there because of the recording software. So as we approach a new star, our fuel scoop will begin to scoop up that fuel, and as long as we have enough fuel to continue, that's the main thing. At this point, as long as we have some fuel, that's usually enough, and if we can also choose the most economical route in the planner.
Fuel cycle complete.
The ship's temperature is there over to the left of the main radar. You can see in the very centre of the screen, and as that approaches the red area, you can see it is above 90% there. You'll hear warning noises, but let's press the M key and let's zip on to our next location. Stage, we still have a long way to go to reach Sol, but that plan will be definitely in there, it'll be in the Navicom, and we can't lose out as long as we keep following that line. So let's continue to follow our plan all the way to Sol, and let's see how far we can get. And yes, every single one of these space bodies at this point can be harvested for fuel. If you press the 0 key before or during hyperspace, that will emerge you with 0 power. And I'm saying 0 key, whichever key you use to instigate 0 power, but you can stop before you even exit hyperspace, and if you move closer, that will harvest extra fuel extra quickly, so there is a limit to how close we can get to that thing without overheating. You can see our temperature there stable on 67%, absolutely no problem. We can then orbit that planet or that body and scoop up that fuel. So while it's doing that, we can even check out the galaxy map there and check out our route. We haven't really moved very far away, but we are still going, and when we return you can see the fuel is full. By speeding up, that may also increase our temperature depending on our proximity, but that will also increase the speed that we uptake that fuel as well. So now that we are out of proximity of that heavily laden astral body known as a star, let's press the M key again, let's move on to the next section. As we move into hyperspace, that will load the next galaxy from the internet, or perhaps even locally if they've localized these things by now, but you'll be waiting for that thing to load, and if you have a poor connection it will take longer to load, and it's as simple as that. So let's move on again, let's grab that fuel because you can see it soon goes down. The orange fuel is actually a solid block of hydrogen, and that will get us to where we need to go. And the blue blocks of hydrogen are actually semi-dissolved, and they won't virtually disappear unless they condense, and as the blue area disappears you might get more orange, so they will solidify and condense in the fuel tank, but they will usually disappear as soon as you press the M key and emerge on the other side of that galaxy, because the units of hydrogen there obviously disappear much more quickly than the solid hydrogen that we've collected already. Point, I'd just like to mention it's a great graphical effect and a great sound effect if we go into that warp, and well, we've seen this on Star Wars and we've seen this on other shows, and I even saw this on a 1974 movie called Dark Star, and it was way ahead of its time. Dark Star was the movie that they based Aliens upon, and the Alien movie directed by Ridley Scott. And so Dark Star was way ahead of its time. I'd certainly recommend seeing that. But back to Elite, we are still harvesting, and let's speed up that footage and get through it just a little bit quicker. We still have 12 jumps to go according to that left hand panel, and that takes some time, as you can imagine. But there is more than one type of star in this game. In fact, every type of star is in this game, and if you warp out and find a white dwarf there, you'll be certainly glad you pressed the 0 key to power down. So here we go, 0 thrust there. We are absolutely in no danger at all as long as we stay out of that green ring, which is the danger zone. If we fly in there, what will happen is we'll jump out of Super Cruise. Super Cruise is a little like the frameshift drive, and that means that we can fly around the system very quickly. On normal flight control mode there, you can see we can still survive the impact, getting close to that star, but our temperature will begin to rise from this point on and we'll be in danger. It has jumped us out of Super Cruise into normal flight mode, and what that will mean is it will take much longer to escape from this planet or the sun because of that. So what we have to do, in my case I press the tab key and use the solid booster to boost us out further away from the orbit of that thing, and hopefully its pull, its magnetic field won't drag us closer in. You can see sometimes our speed will be decreasing, but using that boost there we can get out hopefully of the way of that thing to a safe distance. And we can usually judge a safe distance by looking at our heat. When we use the hyperspace or the Super Cruise button, our heat, if that's too hot, we are too close. So let's fly further out there. Let's keep on boosting. Let's see if we can find the optimal range. You can see I'm trying there, but you can see we are just too hot. And if we press the N key, that will actually align us in an emergency vector away from whatever we are facing at the moment, and that's a star. So let's press the N key quickly, find our destination and align ourselves up with that emergency vector, and then carry on watching the heat. So let's boost away until the heat is in the 50s ideally, and as soon as it gets to the right temperature we can then press the N key, find our escape vector, and hopefully boost out of trouble. The ship will continue to complain about overheating until we get away from that planet or that star, and the proximity meter on the far right will glow red if we are in too much proximity to that thing. But again, if we watch and observe our temperature, it doesn't really matter about the proximity as long as that temperature doesn't go over at 100%. But always remember to give yourself 100% thrust in these situations, and if you forget, the computer will tell you to do so. Some stars are very dangerous indeed, and obviously the white dwarfs are very dangerous, and some of those you can't even harvest fuel from. And we also find mysterious purple stars, collapsed stars there. I don't quite understand what they are, but they are very dangerous. You cannot get close to those. And sometimes you might be able to harvest some fuel from the very corona of that thing, the very edge. But again, if you move too close, you'll get fried. So in this point, even though we have very little fuel, having survived that white dwarf with no fuel, and survived this purple sun with no fuel, let's get to the next place, and let's see if we can make it on just 2 and a bit bars there. And if the next place is a nice yellow sun, we can harvest that, and if it isn't, we'll have to switch back to the economy drive, switch back to the economy route, and follow that until we do. But luckily, here we go, a nice yellow sun. They do vary in colour and strength, and of course general gravitational pull. So now that we have that, let's speed up and refuel ourselves all the way up. So as you see me making my way towards Sol there, let's just speed up this footage again and skip the boring elements, because sometimes this game is very intense and very gripping, very absorbing, and actually quite addictive. At this early stage, of course, it's up to the player to find their own way through the game, and defenseless as we are, and making our way through the galaxy, aimlessly as we are, well, it can be exciting, and it's more fun to play this thing than it is to actually watch that footage. So let's just carry on, let's just keep on skipping through, and let's make our way closer and closer. It won't be long before we get to Sol. At this point, it's fingers crossed that we don't get attacked, and you can't really hang around these places too long or you may get attacked, and that really is a danger in the later part of the game. Hopefully at this stage, people scanning us will reveal that we don't have any cargo, and if we find another ship and press the T key on that, we can scan that thing in reverse. But having done so, you can see on the left in red on the instrument panel it says that that guy is wanted, so if we don't get out of here, that guy might just come and attack us. Here we are, several more jumps closer to Earth, and if we check out that system map, yes, you can access it from the left hand panel by pressing 1AS and space. Observing the system map is all very interesting, but from there we can also access the galaxy map, and you can see Barnard's Star there. If you were watching my other play guide to Elite Frontier, Elite 2 there, well, Barnard's Star was in there, and so we're not too far away from the main places in this game. It won't be too long before we get there. We can also use the mouse to move that galaxy map around, hold down the right mouse button to move up and down, and we can also hold down the left to move left and right. From here we can also find our location. And look at that, Altair there, a planet from the original play guide, and Altair imports palladium as well as performance enhancers for a nice price, and T, it exports a rare commodity as well as marine equipment and mineral extractors. So it's very important to know the import and export of every system, the major stats of every major terminal along the way. And we can see the next port is actually great for non-lethal weapons that Altair and surrounding systems definitely need, so non-lethal weapons there definitely comes in handy. The next system I can't pronounce, I call it Lacale, or it could be Lacal, or Lacali, or whatever you pronounce those things. That is also one of my favourite systems for picking up palladium to taking to Altair. Epsilon Indi imports agri-medicines and pesticides, and it doesn't really import much, I'm afraid, but what it does export is a great rare commodity. We will see rare commodities a little later on, and they will play an important role. Let's move on to the next place, Ross 154. And if you remember from the previous play guide, yes, Ross 154 is the place to pick up narcotics, and that still has a great narcotics trade in this game. There is also Ross 128, if you remember, and in this case that imports coltan and uranite, that exports gold, silver and cobalt. LHS 397 likes to import tea and liquor, so you get a great price for those, and it also exports coltan at a great price, so I like to go to LHS 397 for coltan, as well as indite and bertonite. The Alpha Centauri system is a long way to fly, but that will contain yet another unique item, and Barnard's Star there, well, that doesn't really take much, I'm afraid, indite, coltan, but it is another good place for the gold and the silver, as well as the uranite. And Sol, well, you can't get to Sol because it's a greater light distance range than we can actually travel, and that also requires a permit, which we don't have at the moment. So Groombridge there, G4114 imports beryl, platinum and silver at a good price, and exports medicines, domestics and clothing. Around here we can also find Mildeptu, and that is a long way to go to fly to the Singer station, but tea is the major import and coltan is the major export. Moving along, we can also find the Avik system there, and Avic only has the one prospect station in there, and that is where I like to find slaves. And surprisingly, slaves are perfectly legal and viable down there in Avic, and for a small fee those slaves can be yours. We shall certainly make use of that later on. Also in the area is Tufa, and here, well, I haven't actually flown to that to find out what they have on offer, but you'll find Tufa name pops up everywhere on the bulletin boards because they have a great army and they're always at war. You can see the old boundary between Federation and Imperial space is there, that's Beta Hydri, and beyond that point we'll find Imperial space, but let's stick to the Federation. And here, Lutean Star, I will explain what that icon above the planet is, but Lutean Star is the place that I like to go and store my ships. So that's why the icon is there, and that's where we're heading at the moment. Procyon, or Procyon perhaps, is the place that I like to pick up my pesticides, farm equipment and agri-medicines and that kind of thing, and they're like beer and grain and vegetables. And beer, grain and vegetables, well, tea in particular, very nice to pick up. And I like to pick up my tea and coffee from Duamta, and those are major exports. They import coltan if you can find it. So let's set off, let's begin our voyage to Lutean Star there, and type that name in, and you must enter that thing with a comma. If you forget the comma, then the Navicom will not find Lutean Star. And I have forgotten the comma there, let's just add that, and hopefully by pressing return that will lock on to that destination. We can then pinpoint that as an object or a flight path, and in this case we can also check out Sirius, and Sirius is another locked out planet which requires a permit, but that system will appear on local bulletin boards as requiring help. So at long last we've made it to Lutean Star, and Lutean Star of course is great for importing cobalt, resonating separators and robots, and it likes to export marine equipment, medicines, computers and machinery. So robots are also great to trade as well, and of course resonating separators and gold are major imports of those guys. So if you can import robots into those places, then you'll be on for a great profit. At the end of your flight path you will hear a congratulations medley played in the background, and after that salute we will head on to the nearest base. By pressing the 1 key we can access that menu, and by cycling through we can select the nearest star base, the nearest star station in this case. That's Ashby City, and Ashby City is one of those places that I like to visit regularly. So all we have to do is to line that place up, and once we have done so, 100% thrust will get us there until that clock reaches a certain point, which we shall see a little later on. In the meantime we can go through the systems, let's check it out. Here it is, and Ashby City there is a hive of activity for the scum in this part of the solar system. So let's check that out. There is precious little exports there, but precious else as well. If you overshoot by mistake, what you have to do is to guide that thing away in the opposite direction, and as you turn around, if you reduce the speed down to about 50% and you turn around, that will actually reduce velocity back down to a manageable level. And watching the counter there, as soon as that hits 7 or maybe 8 seconds to go, then hit the 75 key from 100% thrust, and that will reduce your thrust down to 75%. And that means you can negotiate these approaches, and you can see there I'm pressing F8 and F9 to cycle through those ships there. We don't want any wanted ships attacking us at this point, in this weedy Sidewinder before we've made it into the station. So we can check out the security forces there to prevent any idiots flying around, just like us, blowing things up. So we can ignore those are clean, those are fine. And as we get nearer to the starbase there, you can see, well, Ashby City. If we press F10 to return back to our destination, Ashby City is getting closer, and if we press the M key, when it says it's safe to disengage, we will then disengage and emerge at the station. As soon as we emerge, we can hit 100% thrust and make our way to the entrance of that station, and when we are within a certain range, I think it's over 7 kilometers away, we can press the 1 key followed by E a few times until we find the contacts, and then by contacting the station we can request a landing. So in contacts there, Ashby City, if we press space and we press the appropriate keys to dock, that will give us an audio and especially a visual representation of the docking bay where we need to land. When we get closer to the station, when we get anywhere near that thing, we'll have to go down to 50% thrust. In this case, I simply press the 5 key on the keypad, and that will angle that thing in with the mouse, and that will have some kind of impact on our speed as well. So as we get near the station, number 12 is the bay that we need, and it is lit. Once we are online, we can press the G key to lower that gear, and we can always press that number 2 key to slow us right down to 25% on the approach. If we get the approach vector correct, all we need to do is to slam the engines on, and that will stop us. And you can see the marking there in the middle of the screen, the lower of the screen. Once we get into those crosshairs, we will be docked. We can use our thrusters to line ourselves up vertically and horizontally, and it isn't hard to dock. And as long as we are at the right altitude, that thing will dock automatically, giving us the docking computer. From here, of course, we can launch and fly away. We can choose to go in the place, and we can also bring up the computer. I like to enter the base and then bring up the computer, and while it's doing that, we can check out the repairs that we needed to do from all that travel. By clicking on the ship integrity, that will actually repair our hull, and all the rest of the things are things contained within the ship itself. Taking a look at the munitions for a second, of course there will be nothing in munitions because we don't even have any guns at the moment. So instead, let's check out the shipyard, and let's check out those ships that we have in there. That's the Sidewinder, that's the basic ship in the game. There is also the Python as well, a very nice ship for quite a lot of money. And the Viper as well returns, and various other ships, the Lakon Type 9 Heavy, there's the Type 6 and the Type 7. The Type 9 is heaviest and largest in the range. And there is also the basic Adder that we've seen in other games already, beefed up there for the 33rd century. Eagle there has made a return as well as the Federal dropship. We do not have enough rank, unfortunately, to get that Federal dropship, and that will be acquired in the game. And back to the Sidewinder there. From here we can also locate our ships in the game, and you can see we have a Sidewinder waiting at Erivate there, but in this particular shipyard we have 6 ships that we can choose from that we have bought in the past. You can see we are cycling through those now. There is a fair selection available in the game, and of course at this point there is no storage charges, so we can store as many ships as we like. You can see the Viper there is a pretty good ship, and the Viper kits out a very nice upgrade if you only have the Sidewinder, and you can see it has lots of upgrade potential with those slots, and we can retrieve that as well if we should choose to do so. We can sell the ship at the moment, which we shall do, and we shall get some more cash back from that hopefully. And we can store and buy and sell ships at our leisure. You can see the Type 6 there is another great upgrade once you're past Viper. Basically the Type 6 is the next one to aim for as far as I'm concerned, unless you go for the Cobra Mark III perhaps and go into an attacking role. And you can see it's up to us whether we want to sell that ship or actually climb on board that thing. So let's sell it up, let's get that cash back, and that leaves the Type 6. So let's actually climb aboard our Type 6, and what that will do, that will swap our current ship for the Type 6. Take that for a spin. Every ship in the game will come already pre-kitted with a number of pulse lasers and the basic stock of the internals. Every ship will have the basic discovery scanner and E-rated upgrades on there, so you virtually have to upgrade every single thing. And you can see a C-rated fuel tank that comes as stock. That gives us 16, which is a lot more than we had with the 8. So 16 capacity fuel tank, which means we can fly further. We don't have to do so much refueling around suns. So we don't really need the fuel scoop, and we can kit that out with cargo racks. Let's just order those things in order, and there are lots of things that we can buy and lots of things even at this stage that we can't afford. And every time you buy or upgrade a new ship, you might find that you have precious little to upgrade it with cash wise at the beginning, and you'll have to do some trading. So what I like to do, cargo racks make the best advantage when trading, because that gives our, well, you can see the maximum carrying there is 66 tons, which is great, but we can hike that up by adding more cargo racks, and cargo racks in trading obviously make the biggest advantage, because the more you can carry it the better, as long as you can afford those items. We can also gain cash by exploring, and the basic discovery scanner comes in handy because that gives us cash for exploring new places, as we shall see later in a later guide, but this guide is simply an introduction. Let's get ourselves going with a basic trade and let's make some money. You can see there are basic delivery missions available, and people ask for things and pay high prices for things in the bulletin board. And you can buy and trade and sell specifically there. Cobalt is required, 10,000 credits plus there for only 7 cobalt is a giveaway, because cobalt doesn't actually cost that much money. You'll probably make double the amount back. So do we take on that mission? Well, in this case, no, we do not, because I have a better mission in mind. But under any other circumstances, 10 grand for only 7 cobalt, if you know where to find that, is a great investment. Let's check out the commodities market, and in here under the supply line there you can see these are the items that that particular station has under supply, so you can ignore all the rest and just concentrate on those. Atmospheric processors, their crop harvesters are, well, they are relatively cheap. They aren't the best and they aren't the cheapest in the galaxy. Virtually everything else it does not supply, because those are imports. One of the hardest commodities to actually make a profit from is computer components, and you have to be very lucky to establish a computer controlled trade run in this game, but it is possible. So let's buy some of those computer components, and holding down that mouse button will mean we can fill our cargo hold all the way up as much as we can afford. And we can afford those, we've got plenty of money still in the bank. Robots, as mentioned, are a great import, but what we will do for the moment is get out of here and start our trade run by pressing the 4 key. We can access the right hand menu there, and computer components 66, that means we are full. We can even press space and discard a number of those or all of those at our discretion, and we can discard those and get no money back, but let's not do that. And we can also see by investigating this panel, all the options are already set up for us, but the factions, we will see that in a later play guide. We will need to select that in a war situation. Everything else is pretty self-explanatory, and the player never gets to see this menu or in any other circumstances. And we can toggle things on and off like stealth modes and beacons, but as you can see, let's not bother. and we can toggle the way the guns fire, and forward fire is selected at the moment, and you can also select the ship lights on and off and things like that from this menu if you don't have those assigned to a quick key, which I have. The lights are assigned to my L key, and as I say, turret modes can be selected, and on the very left you can see our range there, so it is handy to observe our flight range, both laden and ordinary range there, light years. And you can also see we can change the screen brightness as well, and well, we can actually have crimes reported against us there. Let's just leave that off. And so I don't think these last options make a great deal of difference. And of course, repair ship, well, that will not be seen in this play guide, but you can reboot your systems and repair systems as well as blow yourself up. But let's not do that. Let's just quit this menu and let's quit back and launch ourselves. And let's head on to a new location with a cargo of computers in tow. You'll see the docking bay there lowers itself, and when that is lowered completely to the floor, that is the time to press and hold the F key. The F key, not the F keys, but the F key. And if we press the G key followed by the thrusters, that will mean we can then maneuver ourselves out of that space dock. And if we then press the tab key, we can also press the booster option, but in this case let's select our destination, and our destination in this case is known as Satsac, and Satsac is one of those places I like to visit on my route. I have gotten acquainted with the place, and it's a very nice place to visit because it has one thing that we need. So let's line ourselves up there, let's press that navicom, and let's fast forward our way all the way there via a single system in the way, because we have a big ship. That means we can travel further, and we have the frame shift drive to fly further. So let's speed our way all the way to Satsac station, and it's actually Bursch Enterprise, or however you pronounce those things. And I realised I was pronouncing Luton Star incorrectly earlier on, and how could I get that wrong? But here we go. It takes some time to fly to some of these places, and you can see I'm on 100% boost, and above the booster to the right of the radar you can actually see we are travelling 34 times the speed of light, 36, 37 times. As we approach that thing, we will begin to slow down, and you will hear that happening in the boosters. Regardless of whatever the booster's doing, when that time hits 7 or 8 seconds to go, it's time to press the 75% thrust key and glide our way to the destination. If we fail to do that on time, we will overshoot, and if we don't press that early enough, then we can be in trouble. As each new ship appears on the radar, we'll get information on that appearing on the right hand window, and as new ships appear we can then scan those, no matter where they are, appearing before, to the side or behind us. We can scan those, but unless we are directly facing those, we won't find out if they have any status on those, whether they're clean or whether they're wanted. And of course wanted ships can pull us over at any point, as we perhaps won't see in this play guide, but we will see that later on. And as we make our way there, of course, monitoring all the time those seconds to go. By the time we get there, obviously it's been a long journey, so every single stopwatch in this game virtually, we are glad to make it after waiting all this time. Is this game realistic? Well, actually the distances involved would require us to travel at a speed beyond realism, and this game really does break the bounds of space-time continuums with frameshift drives and things like that. But ignoring all that, we have actually made it, and when we press 100% boost when we are 4 seconds to go, that will cut down that time so we can jump out of hyperspace just a little bit quicker. We can then press the full boost key and then get on with boosting our way through to that station, and when we are there we can request to dock, and that will appear on our radar there. Let's request that docking, and just above the radar it gives us again the landing pad. So let's angle that thing in there, and once again when we are somewhere near we can press the 50% key and we can slow down and enter that base, that station to our leisure. It's nice to see Bush Enterprise, however you pronounce that, is scrolled along the outside of that thing. Welcome in upside down as well, in case you're flying in upside down. And let's see if we can find that thing. There it is. To the left of the radar we'll find a very small radar. When that's lined up it means we're on target. In this case it means we're on target for the landing pad. So the very left radar, the small one, is actually one of the most important items to note in the entire game. And as you can see there, we're coming in at a height. Let's just line that thing up vertically and then horizontally, and then lower ourselves with the R key, bring that down to land. All we need to do is to line that thing up there. You can see it isn't hard, we can take as long as we like. And lining that thing up horizontally there, and let's press the reverse thrust to give us some rear and forward action so that we line on target. We'll obviously hear a sound effect when that thing is lined up and we can see it. So again, if we level ourselves out and press the R key, landing should be straightforward after that. So that's the last time I'll even comment on the landing. It's pretty straightforward, as you can see. So now that we are in the base, it's time, well, to ignore the refueling. We have a massive 16-ton tank, so let's ignore that. And let's go straight into the bulletin board. Does anybody want my computers? No. What a surprise. Well, help needed. I'm not giving those free slaves for a little reputation in this game, because slaves are difficult at the best of times. I can go out and kill some traders if I like, but killing traders seems a little dodgy to the old morality, and that doesn't seem to be a good idea. We can also go out and kill somebody. In this case it's a general, or it's somebody of high regard, and we have to go out and kill that guy. And fortunately he'll be driving a Python. We're in a Type 6, so that's not really going to work. And bounty hunters wanted, that's more like it. We can now destroy wanteds and get extra money for doing that, but we won't be doing that. We can also pick up space debris, and picking up that cargo means we can take that from A to B in case it's worth anything. The black box there, you never know what that is going to be worth. And there's another assassination mission to take out a general, and generals in this game are generally difficult, as they would be. So you do get money for those, but at this stage, just starting off, we are basically sticking to the trading because that's easy money. So let's have a look there. Let's look under that cargo bracket. Under that third section we can see our cargo, and in this case we only have those 66 computers. That will give us a very small profit, but it will give us some profit. So if we hold that mouse button down, just like Frontier, we can offload those in one go, which will give us 21,000 credits, which is not bad. I'll take it. But the real reason why we're here is because this station actually holds a very profitable item in Lewitton Star. So let's find that item. You can see there precious little there in the way of minerals, and this is not a mineral extracting system that we're in at the moment, so you won't find any of those there. But if you bring them back here, if we observe the galactic average, sometimes you can make some profit. There are precious few metals here as well. Gold seems to be very expensive. Let's check out some other things. You can see the performance enhancers. Well, they bring a great price in Altair. Performance enhancers are definitely required, so let's buy a few of those. And you can see some of the supply there goes into the millions. Microbial furnaces, whatever they may be, the semiconductors and the superconductors, sometimes they can bring money in, but you have to find the right systems for those, otherwise you might be carrying around dead cargo. Precious little in the way of food, and consumables is only consumable technology. So it isn't really great to buy things from here, except for a number of items which are actually worth it. And amongst those, you can see the performance enhancers already are great, but what I'm actually here for, no, it is not the microbial furnaces, it is for the resonating separators. And I've no idea what resonating separators are, but I think it's to do with mineral extraction, i.e. they resonate and separate the minerals. So let's buy some of those. In fact, let's buy as many of those as we can, and let's check out the other aspects as well. The gold, well, sometimes it's worth buying gold, but looking at those prices, I'm not quite sure whether those will pan out. So let's buy some copper instead. Notice we've just spent all our cash and we still have not got a full cargo hold. Maybe it was a mistake buying all those racks and not being able to afford to fill them. But continuing on, let's continue with the game. Let's return all the way back to Lewington Star and let's make headway while the sun shines.
Landing gear retracted.
Sometimes if you press that F key a little too hard, you might find yourself too high for the exit door, and you might have to find your re-angle approach to get through that thing. But having got through that thing and boosted out of the orbit of that zone, we are not mass locked any longer, or at least we won't be. There you go. And now we can get back along our mission, along that flight path, back to Lewington Star. Notice that up until the 7-second mark we'll be flying along the secondary approach vector, or rather the one that we really don't need to consider, but as soon as we hit that 7-second mark we'll go down to 75% thrust, and then we'll find the final approach vector. And the final approach vector is usually at best if we place ourselves between the planetoid and the actual thing that we are seeking, the station in this case. And if we do that, then we'll hopefully find an easier access to that station. Basically, the entrances to every station should be facing the planet, so if we approach from the planet's side, then we should be facing the entrance to that station every single time that we approach that thing. And it isn't always obvious and it isn't always easy. You can see on the radar I'm trying to line up the planet so that it appears behind us, and of course when there's only 4 or 5 seconds to go there we can hit full thrust and press the M key just in time to boost out. You can see we haven't quite made it to the front of that thing, but we have got the vertical angle even if we haven't got the horizontal correct. So all we need to do is to fly down and request landing, and we should be safe after that. Sometimes it can help to take our time on the landing pad to line that thing up correctly instead of rushing on in, but if we do that and get around about the right place, around about the right height, then we should connect, and that will mean we're landed and connected to the docking computer. Again, if you make that go underground and docked basically before you access the computer, it can be getting on with that, and that means you have instant access to the outfitting when that is completed. Look at that, looking for freelance employment consultants there for 50k. It's a great job if you can get it. Maybe we'll take a look at that a little later, but for the moment, performance enhancers, and you can see quite some profit there. Those performance enhancers will make a great profit no matter where you take those. And let's dump a few of the other items of cargo just to see the profit margin and take a look at that. 790 credits there per item, as well as the money that we got back for shelling out those things. That puts us up there, and it's as simple as that to make money in this game. And all we have left is those 5 tons of performance enhancers that we managed to save, and we're not even going to bother refueling either, because the tank refueling in this thing is unbelievable. You don't even have to use the fuel scoop anymore once you get to the ships this big. So let's check out, there is also a hauler in here. We can retrieve that or we can sell that. Well, let's get rid of it. And there is also a Cobra Mark III, the Sidewinder, which we started with, and at this stage that's practically useless, so let's get rid of that and make some more on it. We can sell items and strip that thing down individually, and that will make more money than selling that ship outright, but I simply cannot be bothered to do that. But you can do that if you want to make more money, particularly from the bigger ships. It's certainly worth stripping that thing down to the minimum before you sell it. But at the moment, let's get rid of our current ship and jump into the Asp. The Asp is a much bigger ship than the Type 6, and that means it can go further, it can carry more, it can pack heavier armour, and it can pack those heavier guns. And it's perhaps the best compromised ship in the entire game, just as it was in Elite 2 Frontier. And you can see there are 1 or 2 extras. You can see a point defense is stuck on the top of my Asp, and that will get rid of missiles and mines and things in the area like torpedoes and things flying around that would kill me. And that's as good as the ECM jammer. It saves us using an ECM. We also have a kill warrant scanner, which we shall see in a later guide. That helps us to identify basically wanteds and get more money for those. And a couple of shield boosters are in there to raise our shield bank level. We have a shield on this craft, of course. And multi-cannons are the order of the day. 4 multi-cannons there are lining up on our ship. Gimbaled multi-cannons. And of course 2 beam lasers, and they are only small megawatt beam lasers. They're only Type 2 C class, and Type 2 beam lasers aren't very strong compared to the Type 3 and the Type 4, but that's all we can have on the Asp. It's certainly better than the Type 1s that we can only have on the Sidewinder. You can see I have upgraded my power plant, giving us a massive available kilowattage there, and 20 kilowatts. You can see the deployed is slightly over the ones which are available, and I'll show you that shortly, hopefully. But in the meantime, you can see that I've upgraded to A rating, the frameshift drive. That gives us a massive jump range, 27 light years it is apparently at the moment, and laden it goes down. The life support is best kept on D because that gives us 7.5 minutes. You can see the A rated one gives us 25 minutes to reach a starport if we should get blown up, which is crazy. You may as well keep the D's. You can see there 10 minutes is overkill compared to the D's that we've got at the moment, and surely in 7.5 minutes you can fly from any star body virtually, unless you're in somewhere like Alpha Centauri, you can virtually fly to anywhere, get repaired and fly back. You can see the sensors have been upgraded to a D, and the fuel tank is 32 tons, which is double again the 16, and that means we can fly even further and ignore the refueling even more. The cargo rack in the class 6 compartment is a type E, and that's fine. That's all we can have, 64 in there. We also have a C-rated shield generator, which is quite heavy, and the shield cell bank is quite upgraded, but that's not really amazing. We shall discover what each of these does, of course, later on in the guide, but for the moment it's just important to note that we really do not need that fuel scoop. So what can we put in its place? We can put a range of objects in its place, or we can sell that thing outright, and since this is an ASP, I'd probably recommend buying some kind of heavy armament or something that which will aid us in the cargo runs. So let's slide down and we will find the cargo racks. The 8 is the biggest that will fit into that bay, and that's fine. That puts us up to 72 tons maximum. It means we get the money back also from that expensive fuel scoop, which puts us up to over 1 million credits. There, 1.142 million credits, and that's fine. So we can also use these empty bays, or we can use those for scanners and exploring, as we shall see in the next play guide. Scanners and exploring are certainly advantageous, and they do bring in some cash, but at the moment, of course, what can we do with those empty slots if it isn't filling those up with cargo racks? And the cargo rack will depend on the type of slot, and you can't always fill those things up there. Sometimes the smaller slots will only allow a 4 bay cargo rack, which is virtually nothing, but we can investigate there detailed advanced surface scanners, and those things are expensive, but we shall see and use those in the very next play guide when we go exploring. And look at that, the standard docking computer there, complete waste of time. By the time you can afford that, you should be able to fly the craft no problem. And we also have a field maintenance repair kit in case we get into trouble. Shield cell banks, which will give us extra power to that shield, and the frame shift drive interdictor, which means we can take on enemies even if they are in hyperspace, which is known as supercruise. The real hyperspace, which is jumping from system to system, of course nothing can be done with that, but the supercruise mode, which was the old Star Dreamer, can be interdicted. We can also see some refineries. There's also reinforcement packages if we want to reinforce that hull, and those are only ever any use if the firepower breaches our shields in the first place. Otherwise it's just extra mass and extra weight, which we could have used for cargo racks and things which would have helped us. So sometimes those hull reinforcement packages aren't really worth it, particularly if you have a good shield. You can see we can't apply any decals at the moment, but you can add liveries and badges and that kind of thing, and you can probably buy decals as well in the shop, but we won't be doing that, and we're not actually playing this online at the moment, so maybe we can't even do that. But you can see there we are fully kitted out at last with some weapons, and when we exit that menu it will remind us that the fire groups need attending. The fire group is actually the way that we launch all those weapons, and the way that we do that is with the mouse. So if we press the number 4 key, that will reveal the right hand panel, and the first tab on the right hand panel you can see our current reputation. In this case we are friendly towards the Federation. We are a warrant officer because we are ascending our naval rank, and in the bottom corner you can see we are allied with the current system, which means we have done a lot of trading with the current system. By scrolling down using the W and the S keys, we can check out the reputation compared to all these other parties, these factions in each system, and you can see the Green Party of Lewis and Starr. We are allied with that after a lot, can I say a lot, of trading to get that up there. And finally, after doing a lot of missions for them, we made Allied, and as far as I know, once you gain that Allied situation, you don't lose it. So when that happens, you'll even see the station icon will change colour from white or red or orange to green. Checking out our finance, we can see the rebuy costs are actually expensive, and if you look on the left underneath the blue Trailblazer, the rebuy costs are actually only just covered by the amount that we've got at the moment, over 1 million, and if we get blown up we'll have to find 1 million to buy our ship back. You can see the statistics as well. If we press the D key a number of times, that will reveal the statistics that we've managed to gain over the game so far, and in this case I've earned a number of million. You can see as far as the combat, we have gained 87 kills plus 1, and we will go into the combat in the play guide sometime soon, but I have progressed in this game. The crime, you can see 83 crimes, and that means, well, I actually ejected a load of cargo into a cargo bay once, and that gave me a ticket for every single one of those. So every single one of those amounted to perhaps a few thousand, so that's the last time I eject anything into a cargo bay. And smuggling, you can see we have got a small smuggling operation, 4 stations in our network. And the trading, we have 65 stations in our trading network, which is not amazing. We need over 100 to gain above, well, merchant. We're on at the moment merchant rank. We've gained 20 million from the trading, which isn't too bad, but it isn't too amazing either, and at least that has bought the ASP. And lower down we haven't bothered with the mining, and we shall see the exploration in the next guide. But for now, let's check out the other screens, and then we've covered this area of the game. By pressing the E key we can move on to the next tab, and from here again we can press S to move down. The modules tab allows us to assign power to all these different elements within the ship. You can see the power rating is usually a few percent, or not even any percent, of course, for the power generating modules, and the cargo bays won't actually require any power, I don't think, but the shield generator certainly will, and that takes 12% of our available power. By pressing the cursor keys left and right, we can actually give those and assign those a priority. The higher the priority is, the more they will shut down in an emergency. So all the ones at priority 1 will stay online no matter what. Those at priority 2 will stay online virtually no matter what, unless you are at death's door. And all the ones on 3, 4 and 5, well, certainly the ones on 5 will shut down in case you go over your power. The ones on number 5, I'd certainly say, if we can use the cargo doors as one of those, that can be on number 5, because that doesn't actually need to be used unless we are using the cargo scoop. So the cargo hatch there can even be switched off. You notice I've switched that off completely by pressing the space bar, and that saves us 2%. And the other thing which can be on number 5 is the frameshift drive, because we can actually use the frameshift drive in battle, and when we deploy the weapons, that's when we'll go over the margin for power usage. So when we deploy the weapons, it doesn't matter about the frameshift drive, we can leave that on number 5. So you can see there the 5 rated items, the cargo hatch and the frameshift drive will allow us to go over the quota of power, and the power bar at the bottom gives us an indication if we go over. And moving on to the next tab with the E key, we find the beam lasers are activated with the 1 mouse button. Number 1 mouse button and number 2 mouse button activates all the multi-cannons. By pressing the F keys to toggle, we can also swap between different firing groups, hence the name and the warning earlier on. From here, the second fire group, I will assign the kill warrant scanner and also the frameshift drive interdictor, and then I can interdict those enemies and then scan them straight after. I will also put the shield cell bank on its own button, because we can only have the 2 buttons in this game. I have also assigned that to a key as well. So we have seen the cargo, and we have now seen the functions, so we have now seen all of the options, hopefully, on this right hand panel, and we shall see the faction option in the latest play guide on the left hand panel, accessed with the one key. We can of course check out the navigation, and we can also check out our transactions, and by pressing 1 ED space we can move around, check out our latest transaction, and you can see all these bounty claims are basically people have blown up, and I will get money for going to different stations and claiming that money back. In the contacts we can see the ships flying around our immediate area, no matter if we are in a dock or flying around space. We can target those, we can check out the stats and information, find out how far away they are from our ship, and we can even scan those as well, and we can perhaps contact the police through this mechanism and alert police presence. And if we have actually the kill warrant scanner on our ship, we can actually sub-target that and reveal its subsystems. These are all the systems within that ship, not the cargo unfortunately, but here are the systems, and the drive is split into 2 sections. The frameshift drive is 1, and you can see the power plant is 1 as well. But the power distributor is practically useless to take out if you're going to target something. May as well target the power plant. And yes, if you use this menu during battle, you can take out these things one at a time and leave that thing defenseless. The frameshift drive there, FSD, is perhaps one of the most important, because then they can't get out of there and you can spend all your time blowing them up. But we don't have the cargo scanner, so we can't scan that cargo at this time, but if we did, we can scan their cargo as well. And you can see making friends and going places, the Sirius Corporation again trying to lure us in there, but unfortunately we don't have the reputation to take on that mission. Unfortunately that has to be here in the hard way, and we can barely read that, but in red it says we can't do it, so we can't do it. And all manner of luxury goods bought and sold, and we can actually earn money from stealing cargo. I think exploring the wonders of the galaxy, we can actually bring cargo back from the Lung galaxy, which is a great place to pick up certain items, and we probably won't visit the Lung galaxy on this particular playthrough. You can see the repairs are fine and the ammunition is fine. We can carry quite a number of bullets in those multi-cannons. We can also have a range of weapons in this game, and you can even see the shield cell bank, because I have a B-rated shield cell bank. We have 5 cells, and if you buy any of the type A, C, D or E, you will only get 4 banks in the shield cell bank, so it's worth getting the D's for the extra cell. Let's also take the opportunity to refuel, and you can see the fuel tank and the reserve reservoir is now 100% full. And the last thing I was showing you on this section is the Galnet, and on the right we'll find the Galnet news, and this contains pretty random elements, pretty much none of which the solo player needs to know. But you'll also find in here special missions and special bits of information. Sometimes we can find out there the traffic report in that system, and we can see which ships are popular, which ships clearly are not. And Fer-de-Lance there, not too many of those. That's a new addition to the game, and there are more ships being released of course, and as the months roll on we'll find new additions. These are the commanders, which we'll find in and around the galaxy on online mode, and you won't find those in solo, but online mode, if you take those down, 92 million for destroying the top commander, 13 million, and we can also see a 6 million, and we can find money for destroying those in online mode. They will not appear in solo. And in here we'll also find occasionally local news and things which the station is buying and selling. In this case it says non-lethal weapons may be brought here. I'm not quite sure if that is accurate. And other Galnet news is a random element, and sometimes that gives us the heads up on major events that are happening around the galaxy. And you can see the third one down, the War and Loot, is a mission which you can apply for in solo and in online mode. Just go there and you can play that game. So thank you very much.